Who don't love a whistleblower blowing their whistles, pointing out corruption, letting us know the truth behind the mask? Well, let me tell you who don't like whistleblowers. Big Pharma and Pfizer, who are lobbying right now to shut down some whistleblowers that are about to expose, wait for it, you won't believe this, corporate fraud. On that day, the Lord made 4.5 million glorious miracles, and I praise the Lord and I worship you equally, given that we're all refractions of the same divine light here together on this journey. Why can't we just get along? Well, maybe because everyone keeps lying to us the whole time and not letting us communicate freely. That could be one of the reasons. If you want to come and see me live, you can. I'm in the UK. All from January to May, loads of different venues, Scotland. Have a look at the link in the description if you want to come and see me. But before then, let's get into the details of this Pfizer and Big Pharma whistleblowing skullduggery. Li Fang, writing in The Intercept, said, Pfizer is among the big pharma companies trying to block legislation strengthening whistleblowers' ability to report corporate fraud. Sometimes I wonder, what is the excuse that they'll use for doing that? Look, we've got to stop whistleblowers. Oh, why is that? Because I suppose the first thing a person would think is because you've got stuff that you've done that you're ashamed of, that you're trying to hide, that if people found out, they wouldn't trust you or spend money on your products, and they certainly wouldn't let you be in a position where you're able to profit at large from mandated process. No, it's like I can't even think what you would say. It's just like some of those whistleblowers, they blow their whistles really hard and a dog could hurt its ears. No, that's true. We all like dogs. Pfizer and other large pharmaceutical corporations are pushing to block legislation that would make it easier for whistleblowers to hold companies liable for corporate fraud. Major corporate interests, including Pfizer, are fighting an update to the False Claims Act, a Civil War-era law that rewards whistleblowers for filing anti-fraud lawsuits against contractors on behalf of the government, with whistleblowers successfully helping uncover wrongdoing by military contractors, banks and pharmaceutical companies. The law has been particularly thorny for Pfizer. In 2009, Pfizer paid $2.3 billion in criminal and civil fines to settle allegations that the company illegally marketed several drugs for off-label purposes that were specifically not approved by the Food and Drug Administration. It's not enough that they fund the FDA ultimately, 40% of FDA funding coming from the pharmaceutical companies that they're meant to be regulating. They even ignore them laws anyway. Stuff like that now, you just accept it, don't you? Yeah, they paid $2.3 billion in fines. I mean, I can't think of a sort of an everyday equivalent. We accept that there are just different cultural strata, whether it's tax or consequences. Most obviously, the 2008 financial crash. Did anyone suffer for that obvious corruption? I think one bloke went to jail. The company instructed its marketing team to advertise Bextra, which was approved only for arthritis and menstrual cramps, for acute and surgical pain issues. Do you have acute and surgical pain issues? Yes. Why not take this arthritis medicine? Because it doesn't work. Why not take it anyway? It's making me feel ill. Shut up! The lawsuit, brought under the False Claims Act through the actions of 6 whistleblowers, ended in one of the largest healthcare fraud settlements in history. But the law poses far less risk today to companies engaged in criminal behaviour. That's because the anti-fraud statute has been severely hampered by a series of federal court decisions that radically expanded the scope of what's known as materiality. In 2016, the Supreme Court ruled that a fraud lawsuit could be dismissed if the government continued to pay the contractor. Wow, that's actual literal corruption. You know, sometimes don't you find yourself having conversations, and when it comes to the crunch, when someone goes, well, what's so wrong? What would you do differently? You can't sort of think of the thing that you're meant to say, oh God, what is it, the corruption that's going on? You go, well, what about the fact that you can dismiss lawsuits against a corporation if the government continues to pay that corporation? Is that something we could change? That's one of our finest laws. Yeah, there are so many examples. Every day we do this, and every day I read stuff out to you that I think that could be stopped. That's not impossible. No wonder people are losing faith in mainstream culture, mainstream media, corporate states, because wherever you are in the world, whatever your background is, your class, your religion, your gender, your sexuality, you can see that society is being bent continually to the interests of the powerful. Wherever there's a law that supports ordinary people, that law is attacked, diminished or dismissed. Wherever there's a right that ordinary people enjoy, if it stands in the way of the interests of the powerful, it will be removed, undermined, compromised. This creates a dispiriting atmosphere among humans, and oddly and sadly leads to us looking at one another in discriminating ways of loathing and personal condemnation or collective condemnation. But really, let's make an effort, shall we, as a collective, to look at where the power is and therefore where the problem is. The court reasoned, it's not that reasonable, that if the government continues to pay a company despite fraudulent activity, then the fraud is not material to the contract. I don't even understand what that means. That's not material to the contract. What do you mean by that? Well, it's not material to the contract. Does this just mean that you have an allegiance with that corporation and the law don't matter now? Exactly. It's not material to the contract. How many more times? That ruling functionally neutered application of the False Claims Act against many companies that are so large that the government cannot abruptly sever payments, especially against large healthcare interests and defence contractors. Wow. So it's impractical and impossible to regulate them. So that's another example of how the relationships with big business and the government are intransigent, immovable. There's nothing that can be done. We can't do anything about that. So we have to sort of just present information in a way that's favourable. We have to keep up the giddy, silly act that we represent the people, as is constitutionally demonstrated in your country or as legislated in mine, while acting continually on behalf of corporate interest. And this is just one small example of that practice. What's more, the federal government has taken an active role in discouraging cases. Don't do that. What's the point in that case? You don't need that case. Yeah, but the whistleblower, and it's upset me. I don't feel very well. That arthritis medicine made my ass hurt. You don't need to do that. Come on, do something else. Fuck off. The erosion of the statute has brought together a bipartisan push led by Senator Chuck Grassley to update the law to give whistleblowers greater protection against potential industry retaliation and make it more difficult for companies charged with fraud to dismiss cases on procedural grounds. The bill also expands the anti-retaliation protections of the law, which currently only cover current whistleblower employees of a company. The bill seeks to prevent an industry from blacklisting former whistleblowers seeking employment. Because one of the first things you might do to a whistleblower is sack them. They're no longer under protection. There's corruption over at Pfizer. And then obviously you're still working at Pfizer. Well, no, they sacked me because of the whistleblowing. How are we to trust you, you jobless, lawless, whistleblowing son of a gun? Go blow your whistle elsewhere. It's completely rigged in favour of the maintenance of the system. It's so difficult to change things that don't you feel like in the end, I can't be bothered. I just watch the telly. I'll just go into a metaverse. They make it so difficult, so fraught. And in a way, I suppose the only advantage is that it demonstrates to you plainly that the idea of reform is pointless, that only radical change, revolution of spirit will make any difference to this. A kind of, wait, let's do things completely differently. That's what's required. All of the evidence points in that direction. Everything is informing you day by day as it sort of unfolds, unravels, unpeels before your eyes, that this isn't going to be a sticking plaster solution, a band-aid. This is going to require radical change. And the good news is you can start to change yourself. You can start to look at what you can let go of, how you can alter, what you're willing to do. Don't let it drive you mental. The push has run into a buzzsaw of corporate opposition, some of it disclosed and some of it shrouded from public view. I'm never worried, are you, when I hear that something's been shrouded from public view? What's underneath that shroud? Just stuff you'd love. Under the shroud, we just put a bunch of stuff that if you could see behind that shroud, you'd be so happy with the relationship between pharmaceutical companies and government. We're saving that for your birthday. How dare you be suspicious of what's under the shroud? We were saving that for your birthday. Well, you've ruined it, haven't you? Pfizer hired Hayes and Marshall, a former policy director for Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, to lobby on the issue, along with the law firm Williams & Jansen, a powerhouse that employs an array of former congressional staffers. In a sense, you can't really regard the state and corporate power as separate. Just regard it as one object that tells us, oh, that's just going on over there at Pfizer. What you doing over there at Pfizer? Well, I don't know. You work here. You tell me. They're all in and out of each other's offices the whole time. Pfizer, which has cast itself as a hero in the fight against COVID-19 and a trustworthy corporate citizen, didn't respond for a request for comment. Those traits of heroes, honesty, honour, the ability to sacrifice, and an absolute refusal to comment on obvious malpractice. Many of the companies engaged in the lobbying fight have chosen to conceal their efforts through undisclosed third-party groups such as the US Chamber of Commerce, which has made the Grassley Bill one of its primary targets for defeat. The Chamber does not disclose its membership or which corporations direct its advocacy. Do you remember Joe Biden campaigning on transparency? Listen to that again. They've concealed their efforts through undisclosed third-party groups, such as the US Chamber of Commerce, which when you hear the name, US Chamber of Commerce, I hear this sort of music. Da-dun, da-dun, it's the Chamber of Commerce, like they're from Harry Potter. Da-dun, da-dun, in gowns with owls on their shoulder. We're the Chamber of Commerce. You can rely on us. Here's Abraham Lincoln. There's Jefferson. Hello, good to meet you, sir. 80 days and 20. Do you mind telling us what's under that cloak of mystery? It's a shroud, I'll have you know. Previous reporting suggests companies such as Halliburton, great guys, Lockheed Martin, nothing to worry about there, JP Morgan Chase, love them all, see them at Christmas, are among others that have faced False Claim Act violations in the past. The known corporate interests lobbying on the Grassley Bill include Pfizer, Amgen, AstraZeneca, Merck and Genentech. I've heard them names somewhere else lately. What have they been involved in? Nothing that requires massive public trust or anything. No, we'll be okay. All five have paid 9-figure settlements over healthcare fraud brought to light through the False Claims Act. Drug companies are notorious for paying kickbacks, giving benefits in exchange for a competitive advantage. Drug companies and healthcare firms are about 80% of the False Claims Act recoveries for a reason, said Stephen Cohn, a whistleblower attorney. What a remarkable, magnificent, extraordinary story that this level of corruption is just ordinary practice. When bills are proposed to stand up, to advocate for the rights of ordinary people in an increasingly polemical and complex world, they close it down. There is no separation. What was the great experiment of secularism about? Separation of church and state. What's the new religion now? For there is no separation between the state and corporate interest. In the case of Pfizer's record settlement, whistleblowers charged that the company promoted Bextra for uses that were not approved by the FDA, placing patients at risk for heart attack and stroke. What? You can't promote a drug for something that it doesn't do? Oh no, actually you can. The company allegedly paid doctors kickbacks for off-label uses, so they would pay the doctors directly to go, oh, I'm having a lot of surgical pain. Why don't you try this? It says arthritis on the bottle. You can't trust that. Shut up! The whole culture of Pfizer is driven by sales, and if you didn't sell drugs illegally, you were not seen as a team player, said John Kopczynski, one of the Pfizer whistleblowers. In this team, we sell drugs. Even if you don't need those drugs, we continue to sell them. Not that I'm commenting on anything that's happening globally now, upon which I have no opinion. But this could be seen to show that there are relationships between the government and corporations, such as Big Pharma, that are worthy of investigation, that there are regulations and laws that not only don't help ordinary people, actively persecute and punish ordinary people, prevent justice and freedom from occurring. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below if you're happy with that kind of arrangement or if it causes you concern. Please give the video a like, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell because I need to remain in constant contact with you. I'm sorry to ask you to turn on that notification bell, but I need to know that you're directly informed to ensure that our video gets seen by you. Please also, if you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one. And you might consider signing up to my Awakening Side channel where every day I give you stuff on well-being. Please sign up for my mailing list as well so I can send you a weekly bulletin on what I'm thinking, what I'm reading, what I'm up to, what I believe in. And if you're in the UK between May and January, come see me live. There's a link in the description. Stay free.